Today's guest is the talented Steve Myerson, a versatile pianist, composer, and arranger whose career spans jazz, musical theater, and more. A graduate of the University of the Arts and William Paterson University, Steve has studied with jazz legends like Harold Mabern and Bill Charlap. He was also one of the last pianists to perform with the iconic Grover Washington Jr. His journey has included touring with the Grammy-nominated The Stylistics, serving as the music director for Be My Love, alongside producer Phil Ramone, and co-producing Gianni Russo live at Feinstein's. With his most recent release, Ready or Not, and work in film and theater, Steve continues to captivate audiences with his artistry. So join us as we dive into his incredible story. Steve, good to see you, man.
Hey, Abe, great to see you. Thanks for the nice intro.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Steve, we caught up a little bit off the air, and the first thing I wanted to talk to you about was the most exciting news a jazz pianist could probably uh, get, or when I found out what you were doing. You're now playing piano with the master, George Coleman. You're in his band, his pianist. Um, it's absolutely incredible. So, when you told me that, I was so happy to hear. And, talk to me a little bit about how that came to be, because I know you're performing with him coming up.
That's right, Abe. It's an incredible situation because, as you mentioned, he is a master of the music. And so he teaches students from all over the world. And speaking of a student, the story goes when I was a student at William Paterson, my teacher was Harold Mabern, who played with George Coleman for decades. And when Mabes passed away, I think it was 2019, just before the pandemic. Um, it's a funny thing how the circle of life works. Mabes passed away. I played one of his compositions as a tribute to him on my Facebook page, and that was "There But For the Grace Of," one of my favorite Harold Mabern compositions. So I played this song as a tribute, and Benny Green, the wonderful, great pianist, who I had yet to meet, but he's like a hero of mine. I always wanted to meet him. He randomly showed up on my Facebook page because of that post and commented, something like "How lovely" or "How nice, dear Steve," that kind of a thing. And so I immediately texted him, "Oh, Mr. Green, it would be so great to talk to you about Mabern and this and that." And we had this long dialogue, which turned into many years long friendship since then. So I've been really close with Benny, and he's sort of become a mentor and close friend. But more importantly, we were going to meet and in person, because this was all on Facebook. He said, "Hey, I've got a gig in New York. Why don't you come hang out?" And he couldn't come through because his flight got changed. So he texted me right away. He said, "Oh, I'm so sorry I can't do this, but man, I feel bad. But instead, would you like to meet my manager?" I said, "That's interesting. Benny Green's management. Okay, sure, why not?" And that's Eli Windahl of Green Door Artist Management. So I met Eli. We became really quick friends. She's also a great musician. And so it kind of happened like that. Now, fast forward a few years later, Eli, who manages tons of luminaries in jazz with her company Green Door, she started managing George Coleman. And so one day, Mr. Coleman was interested in recording a new project. And so he told Eli, he said, I've never done like an all original project. I'm really interested in doing that. Do you have any advice? How would you go? How would I go about that? And she suggested that he do all contrafacts, because then the band knows everything, don't really have to rehearse that much, and everybody feels comfortable. He loved the idea. So she played my most recent CD for him unbeknownst to him, who was on piano, who was on drums, any of that. She goes, "Hey, check this out. This is a friend of mine. He's a pianist. He made a record of all contrafacts called Ready or Not." So he's listening. And he's going, "Man, okay, I like this. Who's on piano? I like this guy. I want to meet him." And that's how it came to be. He heard me play from a record, from all that history of Harold Mabern passing away, meeting Benny Green, meeting Eli, and him hearing my record and saying, "I want to meet this guy." So eventually he invited me to his apartment to play some tunes, and we did that. Little did I know it was an audition,
Was it just
so to
duo?
speak.
When you
Just
play,
duo. Actually, no, the first time Alex Claffey came over as well, and he just jammed with us, and we just had a jam session, calling tunes and having some fun. I know Claffey from Philadelphia. Well, not personally, not well, but we're kind of cross paths with the same circle since we're both from the Philly area. Um, so after that session, he invited me back and back again and back again. And one more little end to the story, which is such an honor, is that after a while, it kind of turned into some lessons. And for me to have a chance to study with the great master, I mean, he teaches students who are at high level who come to him from all over the world. But you got to be ready for that, you know, and I think finally after all these decades in the music, I felt like, okay, I could learn something from Mr. Coleman. Can I get some lessons? We did that for the whole summer. And he called me up one day and he said, Steve, this is kind of a quote. He said, you know, I respect you so much, and out of great respect for you as a person and a musician, I can't charge you for lessons, man. He's like, just come over and I'll just show you stuff and we'll just play, you know. It was just like, wow, I almost cried. It was just unbelievable to have him call me like that and get that honor. I wasn't thinking about, oh, let me get a gig or any of that kind of stuff. I was just humbly happy to be there and learning, and kind of getting my butt kicked a little bit too at the piano. So after that phone call, it turned into an opportunity where he was looking for a pianist, and there's some upcoming gigs on the horizon. And you know, we've developed this friendship and playing relationship over the past couple months that he offered the gig to me, and that's going to be at Birdland on January 21st. So I'm really excited to be joining the George Coleman Quintet on the 21st.
I will be there.
I'm so stoked. That's amazing, man. I'm so glad you're going to be there.
So yeah, that's actually it's a week from this coming Tuesday, the 14th. It's in 12 days from now.
That's right.
Where can people get tickets for that? Just on the Birdland website?
Yeah, I believe I want to say Ticketmaster is handling it, but yeah, if you just go to birdlandjazz.com and look for the show, it's a Tuesday night, which is nice, you know, and not too late either. I think there's a 7 o'clock set and like a 9:30 set.
So
So
that'll be the debut of his, new band, technically speaking, with you and the other musicians.
that is right.
Right.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. It's a debut. Mr. Coleman has never had his own quintet. This is kind of new. I mean, you might say, oh, but what about the group with Harold or with Mike Ladon or, you know, Eric Alexander? All of those groups, of course, were put together. They were kind of produced. And from what I understand, and of course, Mr. Coleman wanted to play with all those heroes of mine, of course. But this is the first time where he auditioned a group of individuals and put them together himself. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely amazing. Now that you've been working with him and like you've been with him, rehearsal and stuff, I would imagine you feel more relaxed as if you're just, working with a friend. I mean, I'm sure you look up to him and stuff, but does it feel more like of a friendship at this point?
Yes and no. um, the yes part, yeah, we're absolutely friends, life for life, you know, and it's a great, comfortable situation. He's so kind and he's so supportive musically and mentoring me, and some of the other musicians, the young musicians that we're playing together with. Um, I think the reputation he has, which is very true, you just don't know what he's going to do on the bandstand. Part of it, he's 89 going on 90. He doesn't have the best eyesight, so he can't see a set list. So he's just going to call whatever tune, and you have to know it. So we've been working a lot on repertoire. You know, I'm trying to learn more standards, but the scary part is probably the thing that makes me most nervous, to be honest, is the idea of, you know, wow, he could call a tune that I don't know, and I'll try to hear it, but if I can't even hear it, what do you do? You know? And so I have no shame in, if I really have to, I'll just pull up that I real B if I really have to, you know.
No, I love that you're being honest about it because, there's you know, almost like people can feel slightly, ashamed about those things, but technology helps us too these days. Steve, you've had the opportunity to do so many things. I know you worked with the Stylistics for a long time. Uh, Now you're also involved in the jazz education world. You're teaching at one of the most prestigious jazz programs in the country, William Paterson University. So it's almost like all of these things are just kind of like coming together at this point in your life, the educational component at your alma mater.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's kind of still surreal. I mean, I'm going into now my fifth year at William Paterson, or I'll be going into the fifth year in the fall. And it's still new to me. The idea of I went to graduate school there and all of my heroes taught there. And 20 something years later, I'm there on faculty. It's mind blowing. But also I think I've been working at this just for so long, and I've been blessed with some great opportunities for performance. And I just come with a ton of experience. Plus, I love teaching. It's really a passion of mine. And when you put all those things together, if you love teaching, you kind of get good at it. You find ways to tailor to the students. Then you become maybe a classroom teacher at some point. And I've had some experience there. And you put that all together with the performance knowledge and life experience. I mean, I've been fortunate with the Stylistics to travel the world, and you kind of learn people management that way, so to speak, and that helps you with student and classroom management and administrative duties. So all of that put together, yeah, I mean, I think I'm at the right point in my life to do this and
Well,
to
I
do
think
the
it's
students
it's
well
worth talking
justice.
about because, if we're going back, let's say 10 years or, so like let's say when we met and everything, I know you were doing other things in your like you're not with the Stylistics anymore, but doing that, doing, piano technician stuff, doing other gigs, as a sideman. And it's just like I think it's a valuable lesson because, you've always just been, pushing forward, trying to improve, being a really great guy, personable and everything. And it's just like if you just keep going, you know what I mean? These things can happen. And when we're talking about being an educator at William Paterson and we're talking about being in George Coleman's band, we're talking about, the high jazz career, like the high level of it. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing is, what drives all that is passion. I love the music, like we all do. You come into the music, you want to play the music, and what happened for me was I never stopped practicing. I still practice. There's always something to grow and learn. I'm always a student, and I carry that with me in my own teaching. I think that's really important to just be humble, and also I had to work really hard. I mean, I'm definitely not a prodigy. I didn't grow up just magically playing music. I mean, some people seem to have that gift. They figure things out at a very young age. There's some really phenomenal young musicians online that we see every day pop up on the Instagram or socials, and it's humbling. And that wasn't me. I mean, and I'm okay with that. I came into this music in my own sort of way, and I try to put the blinders on even more so. I'll give myself my own advice in preparing for the George Coleman gig is you have to put blinders on and don't worry about what other musicians of the same instrument are doing because it can kind of be scary. There's always somebody better than you out there or more innovative or younger or they have just more stuff going on, but that's them. And so I'm me, and I finally at my age, it took me this long to be comfortable in my own skin and just accept what my life has brought me and how the cards have unfolded, and therefore I'm able to move forward and not waste precious time being depressed. I think that's a really important thing. Is don't worry about everybody else. Just be healthy and make good choices for yourself, and the music will come together. And opportunities will come, and that's where I'm at right now with my
No,
teaching, my playing, everything.
no, that's beautifully said. You're saying you have to be comfortable with yourself. But that's also, that's a struggle, artists have, and that's why we keep pushing forward. We want to find the magic on the bandstand.
Yeah, it's true. And something else too on that point about the bandstand. Younger musicians and developing musicians, myself included, we always want to know how do you find your own voice? That's always kind of an important artistic pursuit. And one time I asked James Williams, the great pianist, I said, Mr. Williams, how did you become an artist? Like, how did you find your sound and, play with Art Blakey and start writing and all this stuff? Well, he told me two things. He said, number one, just play. Don't worry about that, because the answer is that you are your own individual. So no matter what you do, it's all filtered through you anyway. So if you imitate somebody and emulate them and so forth, as long as you're writing your own music and applying what you've learned, you're going to be your own voice naturally. So don't try to be somebody or try to be original. Just be you. The second thing he told me is to never stop studying the music of Phineas Newborn Jr., which I still do. I learned from that when I'm practicing. I'm always listening to Phineas, or Finest, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, that's great that to hear that, you're at this place in your career and everything. I know you're also doing some other work as a music director in Atlantic City for some of these shows. So again, goes back to the point that I talk with a lot of people about on the podcast, that being a musician today, you've got to have a couple of things going on, not just the playing part. Um,
And
so
as you could probably hear in the background, my dog. I have a dog in a family. I have a wife and a son, and
yeah, that's
um,
important too, But yeah,
yeah,
like you're doing that as well. So you're kind of like going from one thing to the next, but I would imagine it can feel overwhelming, but if you keep the right mindset, like you push. But talk a little bit about the Atlantic City gig you just started doing as well.
yeah, that's great. Well, I'm a survivor, man. I really work very hard to survive life, because a lot of things get thrown at you every day, a lot of hurdles and obstacles. And so, the main thing is to keep a positive energy and attitude and have faith in life that the things will work out. And for me, I don't know, I never really, I wasn't good at hustling or try to get a gig, so to speak. I always just approached it as, I love the music, I want to connect with people, and eventually that led to more and more connections. And it is truly, who but not like some, hey, I paid this guy, some under the table deal, and now he's going to hire me for a gig because I know him. It's not that kind of thing. It's just be a good person, be a good player, show up on time, all those things that we talk about to become a professional musician. With the Atlantic City scene, what happened was I was touring with the Stylistics, and I put some of my performance videos out there. This is maybe around 2018, before the pandemic, and it's kind of showing my keyboarding skills, because as much as I play piano, I'm also a synth guy. I do double stack, triple keyboards, and all that.
Triple keyboards.
Yeah, yeah, you have two, one on top, one on the bottom, and one on your right or one on your left, depending. I've had more, it's the more the merrier.
That's wild, man.
It's so much fun, and to trigger different sounds, or maybe for to make it easier with sound switching, or sometimes you have different pieces of gear that serve certain purposes. So I got pretty good at that all those years with the Stylistics, playing orchestral type parts. And somebody saw one of my videos and heard me play, and I'm looking for a keyboard player, maybe I'll hire this guy. And turned out that this person, the music director for the Atlantic City shows that I'm now involved with, he knew somebody that I knew that also coincidentally recommended me, when he said, hey, do you know any keyboard player? And the guy said, yeah, check out Steve Myerson. We play together in the Stylistics. So it was the guitar player for the Stylistics. And so, just small world, man. Connect the dots, and this guy said, okay, I'm going to give you a shot. Next thing you know, I'm on a plane to Detroit doing a major Motown tribute show at the Fox Theater in front of like 5,000 people or something with this
Whoa.
organization. It was insane. And I worked really hard. I practiced, I learned my music, I showed up on time, was professional, and did the show. I've been working with the company. They're called Elite Casino Marketing. They put on kind of these big like casino production tribute shows. That's their vibe. They have like dancers and singers and props and all this, costumes. And that led to me doing several different types of variety shows. Like I did a Rat Pack, and 80s, a disco. Look, I love all kinds of music, not just jazz. every kind of music that I've come up playing, R&B, soul, mostly, blues, it all informs my overall existence as a professional working musician.
Let this be the lesson out there for everybody who's listening that the video you posted of yourself led to George Coleman, right?
Yeah.
But let's even if we went further back than that, going to William Paterson and Harold Mabern, right? We could these little things just lead into each other.
Yeah.
And then the work with the stylistics led to being recommended to this. And all along this time, you're saying, you work hard, be professional, and have a positive attitude. The rest is going to fall into place.
Yeah, it's so true. Opportunities will come your way. The other thing is you have to have enough vision to see it when it's in front of your face because sometimes you'll miss an opportunity and that's the worst when that happens. You look back and go, because you only get one chance. So you really have to be ready and prepared, whatever the opportunity is.
Let's rewind a little bit. If you could go back and give your younger self any advice, what would you tell them? Or would you say just do what you're doing?
I wouldn't change much because life happened, and I'm really happy now where I am. I mean, I have a family and I'm doing something to get that, I mean, it's such a blessing to have a family and a wife and a son and a house and all these things. So I wouldn't change anything that led me to where I am now, but man, did I struggle for many decades. And I think that struggle was a result of ill preparedness and immaturity early on. So I think I would tell my younger self, look, get over this stuff, man. Like, come on, step it up, dude. Practice hard, work harder.
Well,
I
when you
didn't
say when you
always.
say you struggled for decades, can you elaborate on that? Like, you know, were you down about your playing? Did you want more in your career? Like, because this, struggle is something a lot of musicians understand. So can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Absolutely. If I may go back in time a little bit to the first time I joined the Stylistics, I was just out of school. I went to UArts for college, and I was working at a record store in Philly, and I got the gig, and stuff happened, right? But there is the reality of having to finance your life. Money has to be a thing that we have to have in order to do what we do. It's just a reality. It's the system that we're in. I'm not a fan of it, but we just have to have it. So that I think is the underlying root of the word struggle. It's how do you pay for your bills and your life and eat healthy and all these things.
And stress too.
Yeah, stress, man. I mean, that truly is a killer. It's very stressful. And so, yeah, I had this gig touring the world, but I got to be honest, that's great when you're 20 years old, but when life starts happening, you need to really pay some serious bills. Things add up. The more you do, the more expenses you have. And it just wasn't I wasn't able at that young age. This is what I mean by telling my younger self, "Hey, let's get with it." I don't think I think I took that gig for granted because I had some money coming in. And so I didn't have the responsibilities. I just had an apartment and a dog and that's it. Um, as soon as I had more and more responsibilities, I was realizing, oh, if I just goof around with my friends and like spend all my money going out and all this, um, then there's no way I can invest in myself financially to succeed because I'm wasting it. And so I was driven to, at the same time, to become a better musician. So I said, I'm wasting my time, I'm wasting my money, and I'm not getting any better because I'm kind of goofing around and being, a young, dumb kid at 20 years old, or 21 when I joined them. So I did that for 2 or 3 years. And then I realized I need to grow up. I need to get to New York and I need to get my butt kicked as a jazz musician because that's what I really want to do. And by this time, I had already played with Grover. I was playing with everybody in Philadelphia. But for me, I wanted to expand and I kind of felt stifled. And also, I was having so much fun that I was kind of wasting all my cash. And I needed a change. I needed to just pick myself up out of that situation, that comfort zone, and get uncomfortable for a little bit and struggle for a little more. Um, so maybe it was a self-imposed struggle, but when I moved to North Jersey to study with Harold Mabern specifically, and go to William Paterson. I left touring. I left that life. I left my job. I left everything I had so that I could start all over again. And this time with a brand new focus of, I'm gonna practice hard and just not worry about gigging or touring or friends or any of that stuff. And I did that. I did that for
Well,
like
that's,
years.
it's a good point because that's what you really wanted, like deep down to do, like, because I kind of relate to what you're saying because like after Berkeley, like I was on cruise ships, like I could have stayed and not gone to grad school. You know what I mean? There would have been, it's like, but you want this. If you want it, go for it,
Man, that exactly. So you kind of went through that too, and that's interesting.
Very similar. Yeah, I could have stayed easily, but I'm like, I don't want to, I don't want this to be what I'm doing,
So
music.
that brings up another point, which is sometimes a gig is not a great thing because it can stifle your development as a professional artist, And so that's what I was feeling. That was a big part of leaving the Stylistics. However, years later, a decade later, it took almost a decade of shedding and practicing and new networking and experiencing the music, getting mentored by Harold Mabern and James Williams and Bill Charlap and all that. Um, Years later, I rejoined the Stylistics with a different head. I was married by then. I had my son, and a whole different respect for a world type gig like that. So I'm glad that I had the opportunity to rejoin them and tour for another 7.5 years.
Yeah. With a fresh perspective too, it was
Yeah,
probably you're older, you're more mature, you're just you're a different person. I mean, your brain's not even done developing until you're like 25.
yeah, yeah. That's true. My wife, she's an occupational therapist, and she knows a little something about that. And I think she told me that males we don't develop until like we're 30. This
Yeah.
is probably true.
No, this is great. But when you're going through these, like you're saying I was going through these, the struggle, um did that influence your jazz playing in a way? Because
It
a
made it
lot of,
better.
well, yeah, I mean, because I don't have to get into all the stories about a lot of these artists in the music, they had their struggles, but it was with, substances, that sort of thing. So I'm just wondering if you could use the music to push in that way with that struggle.
Yeah, I think fortunately, I mean, I never got hooked on any kind of substance, and that's a really good thing. I want to stress that no smoking, an occasional drink, but barely, Um, and so that was always helpful. Also, having some situations like I did a gig with Wallace Roney. He hired me for to be in his band for a little while before he passed away, and that was eye-opening because the level of talent was so high, you know, and so that pushed me to practice even more, which I guess that's more the point too, is if you can surround yourself with musicians who are greats, who are experienced, who are masters, or even just more, they don't have to be famous, but it's just that they're more experienced than you. If you can take yourself out of that comfort zone and put yourself into those tough situations, you're going to grow.
Well,
Um,
but it's also okay to play with musicians who, you're talking about getting pushed by musicians, but you can
yeah,
push other musicians too. That's just as valuable because you need to be in that role. I mean, that's what I was
yeah.
talking about. I was talking to Jim Riddle about that, and he was like, sometimes I'm the one who's pushing the musicians, and that's good.
Oh, that's a lot of responsibility that I heard Jim Riddle and that wonderful podcast. And Jim was another teacher of mine. I
There
studied
you
with
go.
Jim for years on and off. Yeah. Great friends, big inspiration and hero of mine, and a great pianist. The the responsibility of being an educator, I'll talk about that for just a minute. It's an honor, yes, to be teaching at William Paterson in a prestigious jazz program, but just to be taking it so serious because these are people's lives, and I'm affecting them one way or the other. And I generally want that to go
You're the
positively.
kind of teacher you want to have in this world. Let me say that because there's a lot of
Thanks.
people out there who you do not want to be around, no matter how good they are. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. I mean, there could be a lot of damage done if you're not careful, if you're not
Absolutely.
thoughtful.
I mean, I'm a victim of that, unfortunately.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm not trying to like say woe is me, but there are some dark cats in this business.
Yeah, you got to be in it for the right reasons, and if you just shave away all the negativity as a teacher and you really stay honest and true about helping your students. That's number one right there. If you can find a way to be helpful and useful in their lives, then you've done your job.
You're the kind of teacher I feel like if one of your students got like a really good gig, you'd be like, yes, this is
Yeah. Oh
awesome.
man, that would be amazing. Yes.
Like
It's
you wouldn't be
happened
like, oh,
before,
like, yeah, but I'm his teacher. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like you'd be happy for them.
One of my students is doing really great, successful things. Is Peter Lynn,
Oh
and Peter,
yeah, yeah.
Peter.
Trombone player, right?
Yes, great trombonist. He's got his Yardbird Entertainment Productions. He's doing like video production and just really cutting edge stuff with the Asian community. I think it's the AAPI. I think it's called. So he's just he's an amazing individual. I haven't spoken to Peter in about a year or two because we're both very busy doing what we do. But he's one of my success students. He took theory and piano lessons with me for quite a few years.
Beautiful. Well, no, Steve, it's been a pleasure. I'm looking forward to seeing you, you know, this weekend and seeing you at Birdland and stuff. You said some fantastic things, and I think will be really helpful for people listening who want to be in this business. So thanks so much. And where's your website and all that social media? We could just plug it really quickly.
Oh, great. www.stevemyerson.com. And you can mostly I'm involved in Instagram, just Steve Myerson Music, and less and less on Facebook, which is also just Steve Myerson. And maybe over the coming year or so, I plan on changing that quite a bit. I need a major overhaul of my website and my Instagram page. So look out for those changes too.
Thanks so much, man.
Thanks a lot, Abe. Thanks for having me on Rabbit Hole Sessions, man. This
Yeah,
is
my
amazing.
pleasure.